Top of the morning. One of the things that I owe Mr. Fauci, it's not going to be doctor for long potentially, so maybe Mr. is better, is that it made me rediscover Mr. Kennedy. And listening to these hearings is always quite entertaining. We've got a doozy here, we've got a Duesenberg here.
What makes you think that making tax policy on the basis of class or status makes sense?
I think it's a very American phenomena that throughout the history of the income tax, we have valued progressivity, and our current income tax does that. We used to rely on things like tariffs to raise revenue. Tariffs are regressive consumption taxes that disproportionately hurt the poor. We believe in this country that those with the greater ability to pay should pay more of the burden. And that's part of what a healthy capitalism does. It enables people to gain from things like trade and technological change and business innovation, and to contribute a little more to the fiscal system when they're very successful in doing so. And I think that that's a very legitimate way to structure the tax system.
Can I ask?
From each according to their means, to each according to their needs. That is a very American, that's the American way. That there's progressivity in the tax code. And yeah, the thing is, I agree. That is the American way. Now that the word America has been dragged through every conceivable, particularly red-colored blood. I'll let you imagine whether it's red because it's commie or red because it's full of blood. It's up to you. Now, before all of the unintelligent Americans jump in and argue that I am disparaging their country and that it's still the best one on earth and everything like that, I agree with you. I'm on your side, okay? The only problem is that all of these things have been happening for years and years and decades and stuff, and now your country, or what you see as your country, is disfigured. So instead of you fighting me in the comments, okay, what you need to do is you need to go, oh, that's one of the many alarm bells for which I need to fight my own government for. Yes. Because you see, unfortunately, America is capitalist. Now, capitalist does not mean what everybody thinks it means. Because capitalist is defined by most people, I would argue, as not communist. That's what capitalist means in most people's heads. Okay? No, capitalism means the control of power, of wealth, or of capital. Okay? Which is, at least in part, what you have, but it's completely normal because all socialism, which is an outright total retardo communism, the one that leads to a bazillion, million, billion deaths, in order for socialism to function, you need capitalism. Capitalism is an evolution of socialism. That is a very untested opinion, I think. I don't know that I've met other people that would argue something like this. But the reason why I'm saying this is because whenever you want socialism to function, socialism needs to consistently essentially bend the knee to reality. Okay, and reality says, it's very, very simple, if you want to make money, like the reason you make money is because you want to keep it. You're going to work hard only if you get rewarded. That's one of the reasons why Soviet Russia was so famous and had loads of jokes. I'm from Yugoslavia, so we had loads of jokes about Russians and ourselves, really, that would essentially indicate the level of misery that exists there. Right? Everybody's working really poorly. There's no point in working hard because you don't get rewarded for working hard. So it's identical, working hard or working poorly. Capital is a form of the reward of working hard. Okay, or being the best at something, whatever, it doesn't particularly matter, right? So what all Marxism, economic philosophy, to give it a charitable name, consistently points to is to redistribute, which means to steal, from the people that are the best. Now, there's another pseudo-argument there that's being put forward that if you are the best, it's because you did so through an illegitimate means, like, for example, theft or fraud or something to that effect. Um, now, setting aside these unfounded accusations, all these accusations would need to be treated on a one-by-one basis. The problem that you've got really is that the government, in order to exist, it needs to extract tax. Now, in the United States, like everywhere else, you have a completely communist or socialist, you decide what the term is, government, or capitalist if you like, where tax is now applied to almost everything. Income is one of them. And in this situation, we're talking about income tax, meaning, or wealth. So, basically savings, okay? And earlier she also mentioned tariffs. I'm going to touch on that in a moment. So the tax exists simply to maintain government and keep on removing power and essentially legitimacy to chase in success and wealth from people, right? During this hearing earlier, Kennedy spoke with a professor of economics who was arguing essentially for a wealth tax, or for preemptive tax on liquidity. So insane. So if you're keeping savings in cash, you need to give it up because you're ultra rich. That was the terminology he used. I'm nowhere near ultra rich, but I'm intelligent enough to understand that all of these things are profoundly unjust. Now, notice that the woman said, she said, this is a very American thing. It isn't. It is about as un-American as it's possible to conceive. Progressivity. Okay? Because it means that you have a class system. And that class system needs to be defined in some way. That's where the state comes in. It all becomes a very complicated cycle of retardation that is unsolvable because it's based on completely flawed premises. Okay? All communists don't want your money. They want you not to have it. It's fundamentally based in envy, right? With this pseudo-egalitarian justification. So, and it's always inefficient and it always hurts everybody. Another thing that she says, we tried with tariffs, but tariffs end up hurting the poor. All tax, repeat it with me, all tax, including the tax that sounds on, not on paper because it doesn't work on paper, tax that sounds in your feelings place, that it sounds like it would work. Say, for example, let's tax Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo makes, don't know, doesn't matter, 100 million a year, right? Let's take 90 million from him. Cristiano Ronaldo is, I would imagine, would be rather unhappy of working for free for the majority of the time. Yeah, but he doesn't need more than 10 million a year. That's got nothing to do with anything. He's worked all his life to earn his position. Whether you value it or not is irrelevant. The vast majority of people of the world do value that position and that role, etc. And he does not want the stuff that he has worked for and that he has rightfully earned. It's very difficult to argue that somebody who's been kicking a ball for a living has engaged in theft or anything like that. Okay, he doesn't want that stuff taken. He wants to give it to his only son or whatever. It's none of your business, none of mine. And if you tax him, what he does is he leaves. In fact, he's already done that. He makes the capital leave. He hides it in all sorts of places in ways that are completely legal. Okay, your government is arguing that they're not, but they are. He basically takes the money and puts it somewhere, right? Invests it in companies, so it looks like an expense, so you can't be taxed on that. That's one of the reasons I think why Amazon has been essentially in the red eternally and has never paid tax, because it reinvests everything it makes into itself to grow larger and larger, becoming this absolute behemoth, right? I do wonder if our buddy Bezos would actually be less keen on constructing this enormous global monopoly if we could actually keep some of his money. I don't know how that works psychologically. The very wealthy do tend to want power eventually because money doesn't mean anything to them. See Bill Gates. I don't know. There's no easy solution to this, but I can tell you the one thing that is not a solution is Marxism. And I can tell you that she is correct. America is Marxist and has been for a very long time, as she argues. Okay, I don't know when the income tax was introduced, but the income tax is fundamentally Marxist, and it's impossible to argue it isn't. Even if it were simply a percentage. If you were taxed 1% on your income, just that would already be Marxist. Because a percentage is based on something, it's a relative number. So if I make 100, 1% is 1. If I make 100,000, 1% is 1,000. That means the person who makes 100 pays 1, the person who makes 100,000 pays the equivalent of 1,000 men. That is wrong. That is already Marxist. There should be no income tax. All of this hurts the poor, as all communism and all socialism always does. And the only people that manage to survive these systems are the, quote, ultra rich, because what they do is they figure out all sorts of clever alternative solutions, and they have the wealth to avail themselves of professionals that allow them to avail themselves of all sorts of alternative solutions to hide the money. Okay, I have a friend who is very wealthy. A friend is a strong word, somebody I know. And he used to work in the US. He made a number of startups, was very successful there, made stupid money. Okay, good for him, right? So, but he wasn't a US citizen. He decided to remigrate back to Europe. I'm not going to say where. One of the things that he did is he paid $250,000 to St. Lucia, I think, to get their citizenship, and then moved the money over there. Because $250,000 was cheaper as a one-time payment than the tax he would have needed to pay on his realized gains. Okay, well, the US has lost a very capable entrepreneur who was very successful. It has lost all of that money, and it made perfect sense for him to figure out how to do this and how to avoid this tax because it was cheaper. Ta-da! Well, congratulations, retards. Socialism and communism, very bad idea, but... Oh, and capitalism, the revolution. Goodbye.